3 minutes, 2.
Well, good evening and welcome to a Pullman City Council meeting that is rather different than we've ever had before. In the time I've been mayor, since 2004, this is St. Patty's Day, so at least Brandon has some green on to take care of the one token green that we've got. So that, oh,
and Pat.
Excuse me, and Pat, that's great.
Green.
And you've got some green there, and I just figured, no, I'm just doing the red and blue and that kind of routine. But we're a little different tonight because we're trying to basically conform with some of the rules and recommendations that are coming from public health people. That is, no congregation of more than 10, and we're trying to put everybody 6 feet apart. We've even put some of our department heads upstairs, and that includes some of our department heads. They'll be reporting to us, and I know Brandon and I have both done television work, so it'll just be like going to a satellite feed. But for right now, we're going to go to Mike Urban, who's going to take roll of our council. We have some that'll be on the phone, and so, Mike, please take roll.
Thank you. Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Councilmember Chapman?
Here.
Councilmember McCall? Councilmember Parks?
Here.
Councilmember Records?
Here.
Councilmember Sorensen?
Here.
Councilmember Weller? Councilmember Wright?
Here.
We know that we've been talking with both Eileen and Nathan, and we heard that they might be calling in, but let's just, for the record, do I hear a motion to excuse both of them?
So
just
moved.
in case. Okay.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, we are lucky enough tonight to have Troy Henderson, who is the Whitman County Public Health Director. He's going to be here tonight to give us an update. He contacted me this afternoon and said, would you like an update? And we said, Troy, if you've got the time, we'd love to have you here. So, Troy, again, I know you've just been busier than heck, but we really appreciate the updates you've been giving us. So,
glad I could be here to give you an update. We've had 12 negative labs to date, 0 positive, no confirmed case of COVID-19 in Whitman County. We have about 10 labs that I know of that are pending. But with that being said, providers are not required to notify me when they take samples, so that's kind of an unknown number. The county declared emergency yesterday, and we stood at the EOC yesterday and did our first super rep today. We continue to work with local governments, our healthcare partners and community partners to be as prepared as we can be. And we're all anxiously awaiting to see how many WSU Cougs return after spring break. We love having our Cougs, but might be one time where staying home might be good. And with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
So I know that one of the big concerns nationwide is the amount of test equipment and the amount of time it takes to get labs back. And I heard from Pullman Regional Hospital that they wish they had more test kits, things like that. And I know you're working with the state, so how is that working out?
It's poor. We've not had enough tests from the first day. We don't have enough tests today. We won't have enough tests tomorrow. And public health is built on a foundation of science, and science requires data points, and we are woefully short. We are talking to the state. We're also talking to our 2 federal senators. They're very aware of this situation, but there doesn't seem to be any good answers. And issues that have come up with testing have changed. So originally it was, the number of labs that are available. There was just 1, then there was 2, then several more labs came on hand.
that's needed. We hear things on the news like drive-throughs in Korea and being able to get tests like that in 10 minutes. Is this maybe, I mean, what's the reasoning for hearing that? Are they not using some good science or?
No, and in fact, I moved here from Korea, and I will tell you, Korea has a wonderful healthcare system, but they don't have the same limitations that we do in some regards as far as, well, first, it's a single-payer model, so they don't deal with insurance, and there's not as much concern with who's paying. Also, it's not quite as litigious a society. In America, you can get sued for most anything, and that sometimes slows things down. But I can't speak to the exact reason why some countries have been able to do this, and we've struggled with it. It's above my pay grade, but I will tell you, we don't have enough sampling. And folks in South Korea, I'm sure plenty of them would say they would like to have more sampling if they could have it too, although they have done the best sampling of any major country in the world. And their numbers are as good or better than anybody else's, but we always want more data.
Thank you.
So let's go back to one of the first things you said, and that was WSU students. And the concern that I really have, and a lot of other people have in this community, is that the college students are coming back. And I've been talking to people and things like that, and it sounds like a majority of them are planning to come back to Pullman, and their parents are actually telling them they prefer they come back to Pullman, that they think that it might be safer to be in Pullman somewhere on the west side. Now, we've got the university keeping open dorms, at least they were. I don't know if they're shut yet. Dining halls, extending times, like we're welcoming them, they're all back. How are we going to deal with this influx? Because they're all over the world right now.
Yeah, they are all over the world. The good news is they're an age, a population that generally doesn't need a lot of supportive care if they do come down with COVID-19. With that being said, though, there's potential of them spreading to the
Everybody else, yeah.
abroad. The social distancing limitations that the governor's put in place statewide will help reduce that to some degree. WSU is surveying various groups of their students to try to get a feel for how many will come back. The latest estimates I heard was less than 50%, so I don't think a majority will come back. It is something that we're working through and we're still talking about, but there may be some cases where, depending on where they are, if they're in Seattle, King County, and that healthcare system is really starting to get taxed, for some of them, this may be a safer place. But it's a balancing act. And first, we probably could just come out and say, don't come back. We couldn't enforce it, and it would be what it is. WSU could take steps to make it seem less appealing to come back. We could too. I think if I could outlaw alcohol sales for the next 2 weeks, it might have an impact. But
Not rubbing alcohol or things like that.
not sanitizing alcohol.
You can't find that anywhere.
But, it's a balancing act. Some of them are going to come back. Whether it's a tremendous amount or less so, I don't know. We will be ready, regardless of how many of them come back. If they come back and we see an increase in COVID-19 cases because of them, well, the COVID-19 is probably here and it's coming anyway, so it's just a matter of, whether there's a little bump. And then social distancing is the best way to try to flatten that bump out. But I understand your concerns. I share some of your concerns, but there's not easy answers.
I was even called by a number of
What if we
businesses.
go back to WSU and ask them to get a little bit heavier on this and actually ask them not to come back?
Yeah, and that's, as a governing body, that's something you could do. It's something we could do if we felt as though there was a public health need to do it. I will tell you that University of Washington and Washington State University, both of them, when they made the choice to shut down, it was not from public health guidance. Those were choices they made themselves, and they continue to have quite a bit of sovereign control over their decisions. With that being said, I did talk to the health officer today about the concerns about the students coming back. Like I said, it's something we're working on. We're working with WSU. But we're not at a point yet as the health department that we think the Whitman County healthcare system couldn't withstand the projected numbers now.
We'll be ready for what we need to when they pass it around to
And
the
student
overflow.
health is gearing up for it too. I mean, we've had them at our meetings, and they've been going to all your
Right.
briefings, and they
Well, the
said,
whole healthcare community's been gearing up for a couple of months.
yeah. We had some businesses even saying, don't let them out.
Right.
And I said, well, there's not much you can do there. You can recommend, but that's about it.
Wait,
We'll go to Dan next, and we'll go to.
Well, and on the issue of students coming back, it's not a simple matter in any stretch, because there are a certain amount of our students that rely on the housing, the dining, the healthcare services that
Right.
that we offer that WSU offers, and especially for our international student population who may not be able to travel back home, you know, this may be their only living situation that they can stay in. And so just in any talks about shutting down the dorms entirely, there has to be some sort of reasonable kind of steps taken to make sure that those vulnerable student populations are taken care of as well.
Yeah, and we recognize there's a number of students who should be here for various reasons. There's another pretty big group of students for which it's optional. And so for the students for which it's optional, if you're at home and your parents are cooking you good meals and helping you with your laundry, that is probably the best place for you to be.
Okay, Brian.
So, with the whopping one class right now that I'm teaching, I know that a lot of these students were planning to come back. The great equalizer, I think, in all of this is that now that a lot of these jobs have been essentially eliminated or put on long-term pause with restaurants and things like that, because I have a handful of students in this class that work at Starbucks and the Coug and some other places. Now they're not going to come back because those jobs don't exist. So I think the idea for at least half of these students was that they were going to come back to Pullman to work. They're not going to have that opportunity anymore. So the last I polled some students was that most of them were going to just stay where they were, with the exception of those that maybe this was their housing option.
I think every day, whatever percentage was coming back decreases.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's increasing that number.
And the ban on the restaurants and the bars and all that's through the 31st, but then that's going to be reevaluated at that time too.
Yeah, and everyone should know that when the governor reevaluates it, the counties will reevaluate it too. So, you know, he made this decision statewide, but obviously the most impacted areas are the west side.
Right.
And you would think that the west side would start improving. I mean, we're lagging, so we may be in a worse shape when they start improving. So with that being said, if things really start looking good on the west side, but a few east side counties are struggling, those individual county health officers have the authority and the right to reevaluate that. And so a scenario of this governor lifting the statewide ban and a few individual counties extending it for some time should not come as a surprise if that happens.
Any other questions? Yeah, Dan.
I've just been hearing anecdotally about concerns about what's happening in Spokane and people traveling back and forth to Spokane. What is the current kind of situation in Spokane with?
I think the last I heard was 4 positives in Spokane, which for that population is not high, but they wish they could do more testing too. Yeah. This is a novel new disease that a pretty big chunk of us are going to have to catch to get acquired immunity to ultimately stop it. So you've all seen the high peak curve if we do nothing, where there's an exponential growth and it overruns our healthcare system. The thought is we try to spread that out to the right on the timeline, but if you look at the area between the two curves, it's the same. The goal here is not necessarily to try to reduce the number of cases of COVID-19 in the U.S., it's just to greatly increase the time over which they occur so that our healthcare system can treat those folks who need a higher level of care. Because ultimately, what you have to have is a certain percentage of the population have acquired immunity so that it's no longer able to spread. And that's generally what happens with any novel flu. That most of the seasonal flu we get is some collection of various new flus that we were exposed to years past. Of course, flu mutates and changes chunks of DNA with other flus a lot more different than a lot of other viruses. But with that being said, most new communicable diseases, at one time they were new, and then enough of us got acquired immunity that it's no longer novel.
I think you said the last meeting we were at last week, this is like number 7 or something like that on the coronavirus list. So all right.
You test for it, you're either positive or negative. And there's no cure for this, I mean, other than staying home and going through the flu process like we do with other flus, correct?
There's supportive care, so for, approximately 12 to 15% of the folks who need a higher level of care.
Right, the
Right.
respiratory folks and.
And you've been
I'm just,
impressed by our rest homes, our nursing homes, and our retirement places where they've gone a lockdown. I think Regency was
Right,
first to lockdown.
that's a very good move, and we've really tried to reach out to those, because that's our most vulnerable population, and really kind of the worst case scenario in the next few months is this takes hold in a large long-term care facility.
As it did with Life Center at Kirkland.
Yeah, and so that is our priority at the health department, is early indication and control of spread in a lifetime.
I just don't want people to think that they're working on an antivirus or a vaccine, that people think if you get that, it makes you better.
Yeah, well, they are working on a vaccine, and in theory, that would either help you not get it or greatly mitigate, but there's virtually no chance. I mean, you're looking at 14, 16 months down. We're not stretching the curve out that far.
Right.
We're really shooting for a few months. Yeah, and that's a good point, because a lot of people really get worried when there's the hint of a first case or they've been exposed to a case. You are going to be exposed to cases. So don't get too worked up about the first one, because if it turns out not to be true, the next one, eventually you're going to be exposed and people around you are going to have it. That's the way this is going to go. But for the vast majority of folks, it's a fairly mild to no symptoms, and you'll recover fine. But we need to spread it out for folks who do need supportive care in the facilities, that we have those resources available.
And since there's been shortages because people have been hoarding in various categories, soap and water will work effectively if you wash it the 20 seconds or singing happy birthday twice.
Or the Cougar Fight Song.
And the Cougar Fight Song, that's absolutely correct. So that would, as long as you know the words, so you don't, shorten the thing out a little bit. But the soap and water is just as good as the alcohol if you do the right job with it.
Yeah, soap and water, washing your hands is one of the more important things to do. The most important thing to do is, if you're sick, to stay home, because that's what flattens the curve. If you're sick, and for most of the folks that it's uncomfortable to mild, stay home, stay hydrated, get rest, you'll be okay in a few weeks.
One of the things that we've pointed out here on our website, and there are others, go to the credible websites for information. I know you have it on your website, Public Health. You have the COVID-19 link. We have that on our website, as opposed to some of the social media hysteria that's out there. You want to make sure people do go to the credible sources. CDC, State Department of, both Idaho and Washington have it up on their websites. So is there any other kind of precaution as you leave?
No, the most important thing is to stay home if you're sick, and wash your hands frequently.
And I really appreciate Troy making the time to come with us tonight.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. So again, this is a different kind of council meeting tonight. We're going to be going through and reporting from the different departments tonight. I do want to make one announcement that affects our senior citizens, because our Pullman Senior Citizen Center is open on Tuesday and Friday for takeout. And all you have to do is call in ahead of time at 338-3307. That's 338-3307. Pickup starts at 11:30 in the morning, and we have a door that's right in the driveway between the police department and City Hall. There's a door out there by the senior center. That's where they're going to be delivering to you. Today they had corned beef available for takeout, and on March 20th it's a potato bar. They'll have that all ready for you for takeout. Bacon bits, onions, and March 24th is a hot turkey sandwich, if you want to make sure you have all that together.
How much is it, one?
And they have it at different age brackets. So for, there it is. Under 60 years of age is $6.50. For 60 years of age and older, $4.25. And I want you to know that we're going to be talking about this tonight as the departments start doing some reports. We have a PowerPoint that's going to be ready to go here in a second, and yes, I did push the button correctly, and we're going to go through all the different steps that we've been taking as a city to keep you informed. And I also want to compliment the Pullman Moscow Daily News. Notice I didn't say Moscow Pullman Daily News, but at dnews.com, they have a community bulletin board, and they've been doing a really good job letting you know what's open, what's closed, what the hours are, what businesses are there. We have been doing something similar to it. Brandon, you mentioned about another website that's local here. Local.
Yeah, so there are a couple, and I think they should get some kudos on this. Rebecca Lloyd has been doing The Local, which is a magazine that we've been getting recently.
Yep.
There's been quite a bit on that site, and then Justin Glover, who was here before council on the Polaris, the street vacation issue, just yesterday started PalouseInfo.com, and I mean, it's really, really comprehensive, and there's been a lot of work done on that. He continues to do stuff. He's going to continue doing everything to list all the businesses, the hours. If it's a restaurant, of course, then it's going to list if they're doing delivery, they're doing takeout, and
phone numbers and
all the phone numbers, right? Any modified hours. Some of them do say normal times, things like that. He even had the information on the temporary potential pickup parking, and so he's definitely paying attention, and so I just appreciate those.
Again, that's PalouseInfo.com.
Right, and I understand that it's not a city source,
No,
right?
but-
So, but yes,
You said as of today, it's a very credible source.
very, very credible, and it's an exorbitant amount of time put into this just on his own for absolutely zero monetary reasons, other than to help the community.
Keeping us informed.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, with that, Adam, we're all set and ready to go. You're going to give us the update, then we'll have from other department heads. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So in the room with me, I've got Mike Urban, our CFO. I've got Gary Jenkins, Chief of Police, and Kevin Gardis, our Public Works Director. So if you have any questions of them as we go through this, we can have them switch in here. So if you can go to the second slide for me, please, sir. So the little background on what we've been doing so far is we've been trying to work really closely with our outside entities. We're keeping up to date with our federal sources. We know that there's been the declaration of a national emergency. We're watching the travel bans. We're watching the information coming out to hopefully provide some sort of a relief package. That's been news the last couple of days, both from the president and from Congress. At the state level, there's also been the declaration of an emergency. We know that there's the restrictions on public gatherings, that it's now not 250, but down to 50 people. We've been hearing from the school districts who are now closed for the public school offers and for private schools until April 27th. And we know that there's restrictions on visiting nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And in the county, we've been working very closely with them. We understand that the commissioners declared their emergency yesterday, and we've been getting great updates from Troy and his peers. On the next slide, we've also been working very closely with Washington State University. We know that they've had their transition to distance learning through at least the spring semester. We've been in touch with folks in the president's office so that we're getting pretty close to real-time information as they're making calls. We know that there's been closures already. We know that they've have some things that are remaining open in the residence halls, the dining, and the healthcare facilities. We know that graduation is still up in the air. We haven't heard anything officially there. But again, we've been working very closely with their staff to try and keep up to date. On the next slide, Gary and his team have worked really hard to put together a couple of web pages, but one in particular that says alerts and updates. It's on the homepage, so if you go to pullman-wa.gov, you'll see it on the homepage there, and we try to post our information. There's usually new information every day that we're posting there. Mayor Johnson declared the emergency for Pullman on March 12th. That was mostly in an effort to make sure that we're in queue so that we can be able to access grants or other resources from the state or the federal government as they become necessary, so we're not behind the 8 ball on that. The mayor and I have set up meetings. We've been talking to all the departments. We have a freeze on certain activities for health and safety, which would include travel. And we're also very, very closely monitoring the budget situation. Mike, in a minute, will give you an update on what he's tracking for revenues. We've been working really closely to limit our own gatherings and postpone non-essential meetings. We've put in requests for departments to provide information regarding who their essential personnel are and activities, so that we're being mindful of who needs to be coming and going and who needs to be on site when they're working. And then we've been providing briefings and updates to and receiving from external entities, so that we're getting up-to-date information to the mayor, city council, staff, and residents. There's been a few news releases that have come out from the city, and we're trying to email new information to staff and to city council as close to real time as we can. On the next slide, so department expenditures. There will be extra clicks on this, Mayor Johnson, just so you know that you can click it a few more times. There should be 1 through 6 when you're done there. So each department has, we've sat down with every department, we've discussed their operations and their budget. We've put a freeze on all travel, and we're looking for online training options so that we can try and keep up to date on things like licenses and certifications. We've put a pause on all capital spending already not in progress, including previously approved items. Hiring of additional staff is currently on pause unless they're already in the hiring process. So we've got a GIS professional they went through the interview process today and I think yesterday. And I think that the only other one that was outstanding was the police department commander position, and I think that's been temporarily put on hold actually. But any additional staff right now, we're on pause as we assess what's going on with revenues. Spending freeze on any non-essential purchases that usually falls into the marketing and advertising categories, things that we don't need to be absolutely spending funds on right now. Any expenditures that a department deems ordinary and necessary that runs contrary to these directives would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. We've had some requests for protective equipment that we obviously okayed today so that the fire department can increase their stock on masks. Then we continue to promote vigilant health, safety, and making sure that we're using good practices like hand washing and things like that. We're obviously, as viewers can see, we're practicing good distances between ourselves, including using some of our technology to kind of remotely access one another. On the next slide, we've got additional department actions. So the library is closed to the public. Their staff is working. They've got other projects that they can maintain for now in the library. We're making sure that all of our facilities are kept really well cleaned and that we're trying to disinfect as best as we can. With recreation, the aquatic center is closed this week for its cleaning anyways. However, we won't be reopening it after this week, obviously because that's part of the governor's recommendation also. The senior center is closed for now, and all other recreation programs have been suspended. Transit is on route reductions this week while it's spring break for Washington State University. When we get to Monday or Tuesday and have a better idea of how many students are back, we'll reassess what's needed for the routes, but likely they'll be going to their summer routes a little early. We're limiting direct access to all city departments. We've been posting that people can participate by appointment. They can access us by phone. They can go online to the website and set up times to meet with departments. The City of Pullman's main line is 509-334-4555. And anybody who needs to get a hold of Public Works or Planning, their phone number is 509-338-3213. We've suspended commission and committee meetings unless there's an essential operation that's needed. We're limiting staff meetings. We're using our technology to try and accommodate meetings either via phone calls or via web cameras like this. We're reviewing our telecommuting capabilities. We've had members of our IT team assembling any laptop that we can get our hands on and surfaces to set them up with the right software so that on an as-needed basis we can have people telework with that technology. We've been promoting flexible schedules, especially in light of the schools being closed. People need to have the flexibility to be with their families, be with their kids, make sure that they're able to balance their work and life. Again, we've been promoting the health and safety of staff in the community. With regard to utilities, we've made sure that we are not having any shutoffs at this time for water and sewer. The program otherwise operates as is. Our communication, I think, has been pretty vigorous. We've been really trying to stay on top of all forms of communication, be it traditional media and news releases or social media as well. And then obviously we're keeping an eye on what will be happening with reduction in services as we monitor the health and safety of the community, of our staff, and of the budget as we go forward. So hopefully this is a not long-lived event. On the next slide, we get into a little bit of the details for economic development. There's a really solid group in the community that's been working together. Jennifer Ackman's been doing a great job of working with groups from the President's Office, with Aziz Mkhani from the Small Business Development Associates, with SWEDA, with WEDA, with the Chamber, and with private sector folks like Paul Kimmel. We're trying to identify any sources of funding that we can get to businesses in the community as quickly as possible. Obviously, there's the SBA loans, but obviously we're also trying to encourage grants rather than loans. I think that's going to be more important to our small businesses. And basically, there's just a lot of outreach that's happening between those different partners. There's a lot of emails that are going back and forth. They're pulling together webinars. They've got daily calls with one another. There's a business survey that I think SWEDA was helping get out earlier today. And Jen and these folks are here to help with any applications and forms that are being put out by the either state or federal government to help them get their paperwork in so that they're eligible for funding. This information is also available on that website via our city's homepage.
And we got we had to document 2 businesses that were impacted for the state deadline. We made that deadline with the county, that was Friday. The federal deadline I haven't seen the deadline yet, but we have to document 5 businesses that are impacted, and that'll be no problem in this community. And then there'll be loans available at 3.75 or 275 for 2.75 for nonprofit. Yeah.
And really, I see the community doing a really effective job of getting the word out to support local businesses. I think the social media push has been really powerful. I know Councilmember Chapman's been really leading the effort on that as well, making sure that people know what businesses are open, what services are available. That's been, I think, really helpful just to keep people mindful of what's available out there to them. The next slide is revenue, and Mike Urban will touch on that.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Pat has a question first, so Pat, go ahead.
Where we have the suspension of commissions and committees, is that also going to push out the associated timelines with those things? I know there's something, maybe a planning commission posting out by Kamiak School that the deadline for testimony and whatnot was going to be happening within the next week or so. And there were some questions about that, so.
We actually got some information on that this afternoon. So Adam, you want to address it?
Sure. One of the things that we're able to do during an emergency that's been declared is we're able to suspend the timeline for those processes that are part of the code. I don't know, Laura, if you want to add anything to that.
I think that was a very accurate summary. So with the declaration of an emergency by the mayor, and under the state statutes, the mayor has authority to do everything that's needed to be done in the city, including waiving or suspending timelines and deadlines, including things that would normally have to go to the city council for action. All of that is triggered under the mayor's authority under the declaration.
And that's obviously been used very much in Seattle during this emergency, and other mayors on the west side, same. Okay, so any other questions?
Yeah, Mayor. So Adam, maybe, I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but that is a question that I had since Mayor Johnson mentioned what other cities are doing. I've seen, you mentioned grants instead of loans, things like that. So, I'm trying to figure out as much time and effort as we've put into economic development recently, albeit not all of these businesses that are suffering are simply in our downtown core. But, is there, are we looking at some of the things that they've done in other cities, such as a stimulus for, some businesses that are struggling? Because we really, of course, don't want businesses to end up folding and going out. We don't want that to be counterproductive to all the stuff we've been working on. Has there been any consideration of that? I mean, aside from where that money would end up coming from, do we have that kind of authority to do that? I mean, it sounds like we might if we wanted to do that. I just don't know how deep your conversations have gone on those kind of things with.
Well, the feds just cut loose a stimulus package. There's a federal program. There's a federal stimulus package that was just cut loose, I think, today, in terms of making things available to businesses to keep them going and other businesses. And it's a stimulus, but then you have to figure out what's your source of revenue for the stimulus.
Sure.
And then you're looking at all your revenue declining right now. So then you have to look at a wide variety of things.
Right, and the more that end up going out, the less tax we get from those businesses.
Right,
so I mean, there's a lot of unknowns right now, but of course, is that something that would end up getting routed through the city, or would businesses have to apply directly to the federal government?
We're still working our way through that because every day you're getting some new information on it.
Sure.
I mean, last Wednesday, Gary and I were on an intergovernmental conference call from the White House that brought all the different departments in that had something to do with the stimulus. So we heard from the Department of Health, we heard from Homeland Securities, Small Business Administration, all kinds, and they were all talking about how their specific department was helping, for example, veterans during this time, what they were doing for the homeless population. And so there's just a lot of things that are available right now, just trying to find them, and that's one of the things that Jennifer Hackman's been working on, is trying to get those things located for our businesses. And we're stepping up here too, trying to get loading zones for downtown businesses so they can do takeouts and things like that. So, any other questions regarding Adam, and then we'll go back to Mike Urban. Okay, let's go to Mike Urban.
There I am. Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, Council. You should have the revenue slide up in front of you right now. Really, we haven't received any guidance from the Department of Revenue or Office of Financial Management as to what we can expect as far as depth and breadth for financial revenue predictions yet. The Office of Financial Management has started to reach out to cities to make sure that we track our expenditures directly related to these types of things. So the extra masks that we ordered today for fire would certainly qualify, and some of the other things we're doing. We've talked in the finance department, and I'm getting some notice out to department heads about doing that. But as far as looking at it from a revenue standpoint, this thing is still very fluid, and we don't know everything yet. It seems every hour something keeps coming, even from the time when this meeting was requested on Saturday till the time we met with our last group for budget discussions on Sunday morning. So much changed just in those 24 hours. So what I've done is I went back and looked at previous economic data, back to 9/11, back to the financial crisis of 2008, tried to really look at how Pullman weathered these types of storms and start formulating what I think the future is going to look like, doing some forecasting on that. So I've discussed macroeconomic factors, really the high-end stuff with some of our financial advisors, where we could assess the depth and the breadth, and when can this thing possibly end, and what does it look like at the end of the year for recovery? And I'm going to touch on something Adam said earlier. How this community has stepped up to help local businesses. By doing that, continue to increase our effort. Really, the recovery can start right now. It's not going to be dollar for dollar, but it'll be something very effective. So right now we're assuming that all the revenue sources are going to be affected by this, but obviously the most important ones we're looking at is sales tax, admissions tax with aquatic center and recreation, motel tax, any state grants, if they're working on other things, how fast are we going to be able to do things? Now, that could come around back on the other way. That could be one of the unintended consequences of this, is that maybe there is a lot more grant dollars available, like Councilmember Chapman was mentioning. So, utility income, and then I added investment income right before, or on Sunday morning when they cut the Fed rate down to almost zero. So, the good news is some of our state pool funds, I'm sure you received the email from me, they're still up and running. And a lot of the short-term items are invested at a little higher rate than right now, but we'll probably see that as things go in. The most important thing I kind of want to remind you on is the sales tax. Remember when I report to you, that's a 2-month lag. So March, it's going to be May before I report that to you, so we'll know how this really looks, and then how April looks in June. But ultimately, the general fund does remain very healthy right now. As of this afternoon, cash investments in the general fund was $7,613,139.61, with an available fund balance of $6,583,812.94. So that's kind of where we are from a real high-level revenue standpoint. That as Adam mentioned, we met with all the department heads. We talked to them about their budgets. We did those freeze-type items, and we've already identified at least $1.25 million that we've put on pause right now, with some other things that are a little more, we're trying to get our hands around, like the travel. How many of those travel items will be rescheduled versus not? So we're coming up with a framework on that.
This is very similar to what we went through as mayor in 2008 when we had the large recession. And we were doing the same thing, trying to figure out, okay, what can we get by with and how can we manage? Obviously, some differences with WSU going to online. We had the students here before, after 9/11. But in reading a couple of financial reports this afternoon, they said that we are in far better shape today than 2008 for the recession problems, that the recession would be a shorter length than it was in 2008. And the financial institutions, there's enough safeguards put in after 2008 that there should be no problem there as well. So those are sort of positives with all the negatives that we've been getting from COVID-19.
Mayor?
Absolutely, Mayor. When I was talking to my financial advisors, they did remind me this economy was humming quite along pretty well. We were experiencing, some little hiccups on the sales tax, but I think we're poised for a strong recovery by the end of the year.
And Brandon, you had a question?
Yeah, I have two quick questions, Mike. One's dealing with CIP, and one's dealing with LTAC money. So the LTAC question is, we have awarded LTAC grants to different events that have canceled their events. So, in some of these cases, they actually have not, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't actually even marketed some of these events.
They're only paid if they show receipts.
It's just on a reimbursable basis.
It's on a reimbursable
Reimbursement
basis.
only.
So there's no money up front.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unreimbursable, yeah.
Okay, so that was one of the questions, just to clarify that. The other one was CIP. Now, it's my understanding that with the CIP, something in, maybe it's code that says that a certain percentage of our money is to go to CIP. So if we've awarded something and then we're being told we're going to rescind some of those things that have been awarded that money, do these still have to go to like CIP type projects, or do we have the discretion to reallocate that money if it was by code, if it had to go to CIP?
Sure. What you're referring to, Councilmember Chapman, is Ordinance 1023, and that does state that every quarter we take our general fund sales tax, pull out our income from three different construction items, and come up with a number. And once that number for the quarter exceeds about $595,000, that money gets split in half. Half goes into CIP, half stays in the general fund. So all these CIP projects that are funded is still general fund dollars. So if the council so desires, they can suspend ordinance 1023, and Laura can jump in if I'm leading you down the primrose path here, and we can reallocate those dollars back into the general fund.
Laura, you want to fill in?
Sure, it wouldn't be a suspension of the ordinance, it would be an actual amendment of that ordinance. The mayor actually, under his emergency powers, does have the ability to suspend all budgeting, all fund expenditures, things like that. So if something were to happen during the emergency, the mayor could certainly address it on his own.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, Brent?
No, that's helpful. I mean, I want to consider the flexibility there, and
That's why we've been looking at the CIPs. We have anything dealing with protection, anything that people have to have. Those we were going through and taking a look at what good bids were. Mike, you might want to refer what we were going through in terms of those decisions. And we picked out a number of CIP projects that, yes, keep proceeding on these. And some other ones, we haven't bought it yet, we haven't gone out to bid yet. Those are the ones we're sort of holding back unless there's an emergency on it.
Sure, the best way to go through this is things that you're seeing, like the library roofing project, which is already in progress, we're progressing with that. An item that we are holding on to would be the $500,000 put towards the HVAC at the Aquatic Center. Since that project hasn't gone off and is kind of, with the school district not partnering with us, we're holding that $500,000 back as well. $43,000 at the park to redo some restrooms. And there's a couple other items that $50,000 for a hazmat trailer for fire department. We've asked them to pause on that one for the time being. But the one we are asking people to move forward is the fire department. There was a CIP project approved for a scrubber for the ambulances to help with decontamination after calls. We think
that's a priority.
It's more important than ever. So we encourage them to accelerate their purchasing on that.
So that gives you an idea that we've been, each item is everyone has to look at everything, so just we're trying to.
Sure, okay. And that project is an $18,000 project, so you can see we're not, throwing lots, and, it's not $500,000 like the Aquatic Center, it's $18,000 to keep our citizens and our firefighters safe.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Under, I think it says reminder to citizens.
Activities.
Activities going forward.
Activities going forward, there it is.
So just to kind of recap, the situation does remain fluid, but we're continually monitoring the situation. One piece of feedback that would be helpful, I think, is how does the city council want to continue to be briefed going forward? We are also looking at major milestones. We know that we haven't had any confirmed cases yet. We're also being very mindful of when we'll have a case within our own staff, and we're trying to make sure we mitigate the impact that will come from that at some point. With regards to getting the word out to the public about what's going on, what's open, what people can do to help, resources that the city's pointing the public to, resources that state and the feds are pointing people to, it'd be really helpful to get the city council to help with that messaging. You guys are the face that people associate with the city a lot of times, and putting things on Facebook and Twitter, I think, is a very helpful component to the role that you have in this type of a situation. And on the next slide, it's just there's 4 clicks on there, Mayor Johnson, that have some just good reminders. If anyone's sick, please stay home. Please cover up your coughs and sneezes. Wash your hands, and please continue to support the local economy. And with that, if there's any other questions of myself, of Chief Jenkins, Kevin Gardis, or Mike Urban, we're all available.
Okay. Any questions of those 4? I know that WSU asked us to declare a moratorium on evictions and shut-offs and things of that nature. I have been in communication with our city attorney, and Laura and I had some really good discussion about this. She was looking at the ordinance that Seattle put together, and there's a number of whereases, but there were a number of different conditions too. There's only so much authority you have as a mayor. Water shutoffs we control. We've taken care of that. There's no red tags going out. People are not going to be, I mean, we're telling everybody to wash their hands. It would not make any sense to cut off their water. So we're doing that, we're keeping the water going. As far as telling local landlords, I talked to Quentin, who's the ASWSU student body president, before he left town, and I said, I'm hoping you're sending this information to the Landlord Tenant Association, because if anybody controls evictions, it's that group, and you need to communicate that with them. Laura, do you want to just pop on here and sort of bring to light some of our conversation with that?
Sure. Probably the easiest one to start with is the request for the city to put a moratorium on mortgage foreclosures. Those are private contracts.
Right.
Even under the very broad powers that the mayor has to operate the city, I don't believe that he has the power to interfere into those private contracts. What can happen, and what I have seen happen in some counties across the state, is that the sheriff's department or the local, whoever is charged with serving eviction notices or foreclosure notices can simply put a moratorium on the actual service of it, which prevents the process from moving forward if they can't serve the individual that's the subject of it. That's a similar approach I've seen for eviction, and that's a call of the sheriff's department saying they're not going to send their deputies out to engage in one-on-one communications with someone that could have the virus, but also it's pulling them away from the emergency response duties that they have during this time. So those are two options that I have seen. I know that a number of jurisdictions besides Seattle are still researching whether the city would have any type of power to put a moratorium on landlord-tenant matters, on the evictions under the Landlord-Tenant Act. Again, you have that same ability of the sheriff's department to essentially stop the process by not by suspending any services, any service of a eviction notice. But I'm not comfortable with saying that the city of Pullman has the authority to do either one of those things. There are statutes that specifically prohibit cities from interfering in both mortgages, financial agreements between a consumer and a financial institution, and in matters of rent. So I understand that Seattle has done it. They may very well be the test case for whether that is something that they have the authority to do.
Well, they have about 14 or 15 attorneys, so I guess they have enough to stand up and attest or whatever, but...
Exactly. Well, one other thing to note is that Seattle City Council in February had already passed a very robust city ordinance that controls relationships and when a landlord could do an eviction, and the reasons for an eviction. When that was passed in February, and I think it was like February 15th or around the middle of the month, it was already expected that that's going to be challenged. So presumably they based their authority on that, but also the mayor's authority under the Emergency Declaration Act. I just don't see that.
Okay. Ann, did you have a question?
I did.
Ann's on the questions now.
Do we have an idea at all, a feel for how the landlords are actually feeling about this or action that they are considering taking? Does anyone have any discussion with?
Have you?
I talked to one today. There hasn't been too many requests about canceling their leases or anything like that, but that's just one.
Which does speak to what we were talking about earlier, is that students do have legal contracts that in a lease that they may feel they need to come back and satisfy.
I have heard of some WSU students trying to do the move-out process from WSU residence halls or apartments early because they, graduating seniors that don't plan to come back, they want to get a jump start on trying to get to wherever they're going to try to find a job where they can. Right. Given the, the current state of being able to find a job in the current state.
Thank you.
So again, there's just a lot of things going on with it, but I just want to make sure that we address that here tonight. As far as construction projects, and we covered it a little bit tonight, our city building inspectors are going out by appointment. They're keeping that going because we want to keep construction going. The bond issue covered us as far as City Hall and rec building, and that is proceeding. There is construction still going on that. I was talking to one of our building inspectors today that just came back from, he says, we're keeping it going, and that's, part of what the city does, as well as what we do with wastewater treatment and water and everything else that's going on. I would like to mention that when people, as we start getting into this, and you heard from Troy tonight that it's not a case of if, but just when we'll get our first case, but we don't want to tie up 911 on, my scanner is going all the time with police and fire here, knowing what's going on with our first responders. They're very busy people. We're very lucky to have such great professionals here. But there's sometimes you hear a call come in for an ambulance for a bloody nose, and unless the person is really gushing, some of those things can be done by themselves, and with a personal vehicle, they could get to the hospital if they need to. But if there's some cases, obviously, I was asking Mike Heston, our fire chief, today. I said, I'm hoping that our Whitcomb dispatchers are giving our first responders more additional information before they respond, because of what happened to Kirkland and the Kirkland Fire Department there. And a number of first responders are now quarantined because of some of the things they encountered with Life Center. And he says Whitcomb is giving and asking for more information. There's some new protocols involved with some of the questions they're asking when people call in, just so our first responders can get protection if they need it. And he said that, it's not just a case of respiratory illness or respiratory distress. He said sometimes it might be a person who took a fall, and that person also has a respiratory issue and could have COVID-19. So when you get asked questions, if you're calling in for emergencies, if you get asked questions by Whitcomb, just don't think of it as invasive. They're trying to protect us too, and they're trying to protect our first responders. And that is one of the major concerns that every city has, every county has, is protection of first responders during an emergency like this. A couple of things.
Have they been able to up staff a little bit there? Because I know there were some issues recently. Adam
might be able to address that since he's sitting on the Whitcomb committee. What's the staffing issues right now?
They have 3 or 4 people that are in training. I think they've got about 10 full-time employees. There's been assistants that prior to this type of an emergency had been coming up and supporting us from other agencies, including John Lewis, and so it's stable for now. There's some there's ongoing negotiations with how we get support. So it's as stable as it can be, but if an illness of any type hits the staff there, it's going to be really detrimental to that agency. And there's been meetings, including one today, between Chief Jenkins and WSU and the executive director there to try and figure out what would happen if there was some sort of a flu bug or even the coronavirus that hit them.
Dan?
Yeah, something you just said reminded me of something I think is important for us to keep saying. When Tony's talking, he reminded everybody that wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. We have the, be a hero. If you're sick, stay home. But, thinking about this as it progresses, this isn't just a precautionary measure to keep the individuals safe and prevent infection of you as an individual, keeping you at home. When people continue to go out and engage in activities with other people, the risk is greatest for those that are in those higher age groups and people with pre-existing medical conditions. I myself have a pre-existing medical condition where I take an immune suppressant medication. And so and I've been self-isolating at home because of that and trying to limit my interactions. This is the first time I've come out in a couple of days to be here. But I think it's important to keep reminding people that when you can self-isolate and you can avoid those interactions wherever possible, it's not just you that you're protecting the entire community, and you're protecting people that you might never even meet. So I think just keep that in mind. It's not just about individuals, it's about our entire community taking these steps and taking these kind of precautions to protect each other as well.
And that's one thing that we've tried to make clear, and we've had some good cooperation so far. One is giving that message out when we're doing our social media to make sure that we stick with the main message that's out there from CDC and not some of the hysteria that's out there. But at the same time is saying, you know, it's not just about you. You're trying to help your neighbor. And that might mean that you might run a grocery run for a neighbor who might be sick, something like that. You deposit the groceries at their front door and ring the doorbell and leave so there's no interaction or whatever. There's different things that you can do to help your neighbor when this gets even more serious. We're trying some innovative things here too. The library, as you know, is closed down. And so what we're trying to do is the library is going to be taking requests, and they're going to get delivered some books to people, and they're going to be all sanitized books. They'll be in a bag. Matter of fact, I got my bag today. And we actually, you know, we were talking about, I was working with Joanna Bailey, our library director, and she says, well, maybe we can get library people to go out. And I said, you know, we've got dial-a-ride people out all the time. Why couldn't we just have, when they're out there doing their regular runs, drop off the books to somebody that needs them? And so they did a test run today, and so we're thinking that we might be able to do that innovative thing where the dial-a-ride could deliver books to people that are shut in and need some books. We're also going to try something tomorrow. We're going to record. I was working with Rob from our IT department, and we're going to, because the library's closed down, we always have a story time every week. The mayor's going to be doing, Mayor Glenn's going to be reading to kids 3 times a week, and we're going to record that tomorrow. We're going to have a link on the Neal Public Library website, and we'll have it on our YouTube channel, and they can tune anytime they want to. We'll have the names of the books. We're going to do 3 books at a time. And I'm also going to answer questions. If the kids have any kind of questions about the city or what we're doing, we're going to try and have answers for you. And we're going to have a different kind of questionnaire, how they can do it. And we'll get those answers for them, and we're going to record at least 3 times a week. And we'll see how it goes. But at least we're going to try and get some semblance of normalcy if we can. Kids are, you know, scared out there, and some parents are as well. But if we can just have, okay, here's some story time. We're going to have some time together. We'll just talk. And we'll read these books, and yes, kids, my favorite book, Baby Bird, will be on the first edition, and then we'll do some other ones after that. We've already got through, and I stopped with the library today and picked up a number of books, so we're good for the first 2 sessions, and we'll start some new ones next week. But we're going to do that just to try and make sure that people know Neal Public Library is out there to serve. It's a great meeting place for everybody, but this is a time when we don't want to have those kind of meetings right now. I talked to Tony Bean, our airport manager. Alaska is actually doing some creative scheduling right now. So as of today, and tomorrow will be the same, the 11:30 flight or the 10:30 flight comes in, but it doesn't leave. And then that plane sits around for 3:30 to take people out. He said, obviously, our numbers are down. I think anywhere from 15 to 20 people were on the planes this week, and that it's normally down anyway, but not that low during spring break. We had great numbers up to spring break. People were leaving, and we had 60, 70 passengers per plane, and everything was good at that time. We were over 40% higher this year than last year through February. And we're doing the same thing. SeaTac, there was a story that came out today. Normally through going through TSA, there's 50,000 people a day at SeaTac. Now it's down to 16 to 17,000. So everybody's seeing the cut that's going on. But we're going to be, he says Alaska is going to probably move back on different kinds of flights. We'll probably go down. We're still starting our construction. That'll happen here very shortly. Because again, that's already bonded, that's already ready to go. We've already got the money in from the FAA to do the taxiway right now. But everybody is stepping up, and Tony mentioned how often they're going through and cleaning the waiting room common areas to make sure things are clean, and they're trying to do the best they can. And that's the one thing we've encouraged restaurants. I've heard that from a couple of people in town saying, you know, we're going to do takeout, we're going to do anything we can, we'll buy gift cards to try and keep them going. But I would sure like to know on their website what they're doing extra to make sure things are clean and make sure that the cooks are, you know, not, and I saw one place where a restaurant said, hey, we're taking the temperatures, everybody's coming to work. We're making sure everybody's good. And anything that you can do to get us through this, and again, we're just trying to We'll get it, just like any time else we've had some challenges. This is a different kind of challenge, a global pandemic we haven't been through, but we've had some similar things. I've been in disaster planning in the 80s and 90s, the 2000s, and all kinds of times, so we're still going through that. Adam, any closing remarks you would like to make?
Another thing that we're trying to do to support businesses is if they could use a temporary loading unloading zone in front of their business as they're basically serving for stop and go traffic. That's something that we're trying to accommodate with some of the local businesses. Both Mike Urban, Mike Heston, and Gary Jenkins have been providing daily emergency management briefings to myself, and that's been really helpful just to stay up on what's happening. The other thing I would just say that it can come off that a lot of the things that we're doing feel like an overreaction. And similar to what Councilmember Records was saying, is we're trying to be very protective of society in general. We're trying to make sure that individuals aren't carrying this beyond their immediate group, and we're trying to protect people that are the most vulnerable. So while it might seem like we're overreacting a little bit by having certain closures, we are trying to do our part to mitigate the spread of this virus, or at least slow it down so that our healthcare system can truly keep up with it.
Okay, Al?
I want to go back. You wanted to know, Adam, what you wanted the council to know. It would be helpful for me if there was something with an elevated essence of getting out there, if I got a text or a phone call versus just a city email. I was out of town for a few days and didn't have email.
Okay.
You know, so more, everybody keeps this piece of media.
If there was, I'll guarantee you, if there was an emergency, I would have texted you on that thing. That's why I went to a text when we heard that there might be a council member who might have been exposed to something. We want to make sure that staff and council were protected.
Yeah, I just, a little more instead of just the city email.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll expand so that everyone has their Ring Central phone numbers as well. That system allows us to text and call through that app that can be on all your cell phones. So we will make sure to get that deployed as quickly as possible.
Any other suggestions or comments or things you'd like, Brandon?
Yeah, no, I have a comment. I absolutely don't think it's an overreaction when you start, reading about what a pandemic is versus just an individual getting sick and things like that. It is a cruel irony, of course, that when the kids are off for 6 weeks, a lot of these activities that they really need aren't available. So I'm glad to hear that the library is looking at some other options, and I'm really proud of thinking outside the box with the delivery, with the dial-a-ride drivers doing those kind of deliveries. I've had something stuck in my head for a couple days now. When the governor initially shut down schools, our state school superintendent, Chris Rakedahl, said, our communities need to be extraordinarily outside our boundaries. And we realize how much becomes institutionalized. And, I sorry to use the word bureaucracy, but in times when we need to unravel some of that and things go slower than we would hope for, so anything like this, it actually makes me proud that we're doing those kind of things, and I want to keep thinking of those solutions, because I got 4 kids now that are out of school, and even though there are educational things that are free online, you try to take them away from the screen, right? Because they're spending too much time there. And
that's right.
Free play is still important for them. And
I was thinking if they can walk their neighbor's dog to get exercise, anything they can do, as long as they take a bag with them.
Yeah.
But anything that they can do for that kind of activity would be great.
Yeah.
Well, I love the dial-a-ride idea, but we need to not tax that with getting rides to people.
No,
I have had some issues with that in the past. And
because
I
we
would
are
hate
on
to
a
see
reduced
people that-
schedule right now, dial-a-ride goes along with the regular fixed route. It has to go with the same kind of time period, and it would not impact that.
We may have more people that want rides now, so because the buses
And it's a
are not
very
running as much,
flexible,
so
it's a very flexible trial.
want to keep that open.
Any others? Okay.
Just kind of more from a public service standpoint. a lot of the questions that I've gotten personally and that I have fielded on social media have to do with testing ability or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
And so the first point of reference is to direct those individuals to their primary care physician, and they will go through a series of questions and decision tree kind of activities to take them on to the next step. But then a subsequent question came up from that, in that, what if I don't have a primary care physician? And then secondly, what if I don't have insurance? So I can answer, and I share this because I don't think a lot of people, I think I've seen some of it on TV and maybe some on social media, but the state has opened up a special enrollment period because all insurance companies are providing coverage for the testing and the potential treatment of COVID-19. And so the Washington State Health Benefit Exchange is open for people to seek insurance just for those things. And, you know, if we know that and we get the word out there to people, that reduces one stressor that.
And if there are students, student health is all set up for this. And both Whitman Hospital in Colfax and Pullman Regional both have decontamination rooms that are close to the emergency room. You don't have to go into the emergency room. You don't go through the front door. If you think you have it, you call ahead of time. You make sure you always call ahead of time. And then there's somebody could be gowned up to do a test if they need it. But there is a decontamination room that's to the left of the emergency door and the back of the hospital. But again, you must call ahead of time. And will we go to drive-in swabs? Who knows how the numbers are, but that's what they've been doing over in Seattle and other places. We know that they're doing that in other markets, so that is a possibility later on. But right now, again, as you said, primary care physician, student health for student health, call ahead, be very descriptive of what you're doing. And if there's anything last minute up there, Adam, that we didn't cover?
I think we're good up here. Thank you.
Okay. And Laura, anything from your standpoint? She's probably muted.
And then I couldn't get it off mute, so nothing from my standpoint.
Okay. I was on a conference call today with the trustees for the community colleges of Spokane. They were going through what level they're at. They have 4 cases documented in Spokane, not at the Spokane community colleges, but they're going to online, and they're trying to take care of students who actually need food, and they have food pantries set up at the different colleges. We run Head Start for Spokane, and they're making sure that the Head Start kids get food because they're getting like 2 meals a day. There are the schools that are doing free and reduced. They're trying to come up with food for the kids that need it. I can tell you my son was in Moses Lake for a while, and we had parents coming in and getting food along with kids for the free and reduced. We've been very grateful for the school district because they've been helping our first responders taking care of kids too. And that was really great of the school district, and I want to compliment the school district for doing that and coming up with that plan. You sound like I
do have some, that actually made me think, so today I joined the group that does this food rescue on Tuesdays, so thank you to Safeway for all the food that they were donating. And believe it or not, at the Community Action Center right now, they were running out of room. They're running out of cold storage, and that is a good thing, except they've got more shipments that they're expecting in tomorrow and Thursday, that they're worried that they don't have enough space for some of this stuff. And do we have any options within the city where some of this could be stored?
Well, we can certainly look into it. I know that our firefighters union, IAFF, transports food from Walmart to Pullman Child Welfare. They have a lot of refrigeration and freezer units at Pullman Child Welfare, which is close to Dismore's. Dismore's donates as well. So all 3 of the grocery stores in this community have done a fantastic donate. I mentioned that Archie at Dismore's has set up, and they've been doing it for some time, delivering groceries to people that are shut in that need help. And there usually was a charge. I understand they're going to do it free. We talked at Rotary last night of possibly doing this as a service project, to volunteer to deliver free on behalf of Dismore's if they want to do things like that. There's different ways that people can step up and volunteer in this community, and that's the one beautiful thing. Another one of the beautiful things we have in this community is people do step up and volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, they would fully expect that this you know, there would be a need for this food.
Sure.
It's just it's all getting delivered.
At one time.
Right, it's all condensed, and of course, they don't want to have to deny delivery of food that would be otherwise usable. So today, they were saying, hey, would that be possible to see?
So
if
I
the city
think
has
tonight we'll at
resources?
least try and get a hold of Pullman Child Welfare. There's a number of different contacts there, and I know they have additional freezer capacity that Community Action Center does not
I
have.
wonder if the school district has any kind of food storage facility.
Well, I know they do
that
at
might be
Lincoln Middle School, because
available.
I've done a number of kitchen things at
That's
Lincoln
right.
Middle School over the years.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's all they're talking about, big refrigerator space and.
so they may,
So the
they
school
may be
district
able
might
to
be
do
a place.
that.
Now, obviously, they already have food stored in there already for the kids that's not going to be served.
But that's
So
not their.
they probably have
but
additional
That's not their
space.
entire population that they're
Right,
doing.
correct.
So that might be another course for that. And you have some good contacts with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I was talking to a couple of people there at the school district today, and we're doing some other projects.
Yeah.
So, Anna, you had a comment?
You touched on the free and reduced breakfast and lunch, and I just wanted to compliment the Pullman Schools Food Pantry Program,
Yeah.
collaborating with the school district to make sure that our students are getting grab-and-go bags with breakfast and lunch every day during the closure.
And again, as we're just in our conversations tonight, you can see how things are continuing to generate just as we're talking. And so stay in touch with our Pullman City website. We will be updating you as much as possible. The Chamber of Commerce has an update that they've been doing to try and take care of local businesses. We've got all kinds of things that are going on in this community right now to get us through this time. And again, I want to point out the Daily News at dnews.com has a daily bulletin board of all the different updates, what closures are there, what businesses are open, and I commend you to go to that. And the other part is, they also want to hear from you, too. So if you've got something that you want to have on that daily bulletin board, and they're going to keep it going, and it's outside the subscription end, you just go to dnews.com. I went through it and double-checked it today. They want to have information. So Anthony is a reporter for the Daily News. I think it's just brief at dnews.com if you have something that you want to have added to that. That's right. Just go to briefs, B-R-E-I-F, briefs at dnews.com, and they'll take your information for that. And they'll like to have all that kind of.
And I believe Pullman Radio News is doing a
They're
similar, has
doing
a
the same
similar
thing.
effort as well.
They've been updating that, and again, as usually what happens after city council meetings, I'll be there at 6:30 tomorrow morning. So with
Well,
that,
and I would commend all the city input on the different
options we've been having.
channels of social media.
Yes.
It's been very, very informative, and whoever is doing all of that, they've been doing a great job, so pass that along.
And we really want to thank our IT department that set up things tonight that made this a very open kind of council meeting. But with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Will we
Yeah.
will we have any new business options today?
They're on the list. I don't see, do you have new business?
I do not have new business.
No.
What?
It's a,
There is no new business from staff.
yeah. There is new business from staff?
No, there is no.
I didn't think so, yeah.
The reason for that is that as I
Because we had
explained
canceled
earlier,
this
the-
meeting, yeah.
The mayor is the one that can take all actions that the city needs to take during this emergency period. So that includes things like awarding bids, executing contracts, budget matters. Everything is within the power of the mayor. And frankly, you'll see that a number of city councils across the state have canceled their city council meetings, knowing that there isn't a need to have action. That's part of the reason for the emergency declaration.
Yeah, and this, Laura, this is not an issue of any action to be taken. This would be an issue of a public member wanting to make a comment.
Well, tonight was just basically a reporting night. So, and we've been listening, and to be honest with you, we've gotten a number of emails from people that have given us comments, so obviously we're taking that into consideration. So, with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So
Se-
Moving second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?